The first granite block weighed almost 3 tons. Margaret Hale remembered the sound it made. A deep, thunderous boom as it landed behind the old cattle pasture. Dust rolled across the field. The quarry truck lowered its bed. The driver waved, then drove away. Margaret walked toward the enormous gray block. Most people would have seen a problem. She saw a question, one she couldn't answer. Not yet. The arrangement began 16 years earlier. The Hale farm bordered a large granite quarry on its western boundary. Every week, the quarry cut hundreds of massive stone slabs. Most became building stone, countertops, commercial projects. But not every block survived the cutting process. Some developed hidden fractures. Others broke at awkward angles. Many were simply too irregular for commercial buyers. Perfectly good granite. Impossible to sell. Hauling the rejected blocks to a disposal site cost thousands of dollars every month. One rainy afternoon, the quarry superintendent knocked on Margaret's farmhouse door. He removed his hard hat. Afternoon. Margaret smiled. Come in. Instead, he pointed toward the western ridge. We've got a favor to ask. Silence. What kind? He unfolded a survey map. Mind if we dump rejected granite behind your west pasture? Margaret frowned. Why? We're paying to haul it somewhere else. Long pause. So, if you've got room. Margaret looked toward the rocky hillside bordering the quarry. Nothing grew there. The ground was too steep for farming. Too rough for grazing. How much granite? The superintendent laughed. More than you can imagine. Margaret smiled. Fine. Neither of them realized the agreement would quietly reshape both of their businesses. The trucks started arriving every Friday morning. Week after week. Month after month. Year after year. Massive granite blocks accumulated behind the pasture. Gray. Black. Blue. Pink. Some stood taller than pickup trucks. Others resembled giant broken sculptures. Neighbors joked constantly. Naturally. One Saturday morning, Dale Harper leaned against the feed store railing. There she goes. Rick looked up. The rock lady? Dale laughed. How many mountains she got now? Another farmer joined in. Enough to build another county. Laughter spread across the parking lot. Not cruel. Comfortable. Everyone believed they understood Margaret's strange collection. One rancher asked, planning to open a gravel pit. Margaret smiled. No. Long pause. What then? She looked toward the distant quarry. Kitchens. The laughter doubled. Kitchens. Out of broken rocks. Margaret nodded. Eventually. Nobody believed her. Not even a little. Because Margaret had never cut stone. Never designed kitchens. Never built luxury anything. At least not yet. Her grandfather Samuel viewed stone differently. One autumn afternoon when Margaret was 14, she followed him across the rocky western ridge. Samuel stopped beside a cracked granite boulder. He brushed away loose dirt, then poured a little water across the surface. Instantly, the stone transformed. Silver crystals sparkled beneath the sunlight. Dark veins stretched across the polished-looking face. Margaret stared. I didn't know granite looked like that. Samuel smiled. Most people don't. Silence. They only see the outside. Years later, she understood exactly what he meant. After Samuel passed away, Margaret inherited more than the farm. She inherited notebooks. Dozens of them. Some described stone walls he'd built. Others documented old quarries. Historic masonry. Traditional craftsmanship. One notebook stood apart. Inside were sketches. Outdoor fireplaces. Stone tables. Garden kitchens. Wood-fired ovens. Everything drawn decades before outdoor living became fashionable. One sentence appeared repeatedly. Nature already finishes the design. We simply uncover it. Margaret read those words hundreds of times. The granite piles continued growing. 16 years' worth eventually covered several acres. Most people called them waste. She began calling them inventory. One winter evening, Nathan Hale walked into the old equipment shed. Margaret sat surrounded by stone books borrowed from the library. Granite samples covered the workbench. Blueprints lay everywhere. Nathan laughed. You're doing it again. Margaret looked up. What? The books. Silence. The books. That means you're planning something expensive. Long pause. Probably. Nathan picked up a polished granite sample. This from the quarry? Margaret nodded. They threw it away. He turned it toward the light. Crystal flecks shimmered brilliantly. They threw this away? Yes. Nathan looked toward the mountain of stone outside. They're crazy. Margaret smiled. I hope they stay that way. The following spring she enrolled in a weekend stone fabrication course nearly 3 counties away. Most students worked for countertop companies. Margaret didn't. She asked unusual questions. How do fractures behave? Which stones weather outdoors? How can irregular blocks become furniture? The instructors noticed. One finally asked, "You planning a fabrication shop?" Margaret smiled. Not exactly. For nearly 2 years she practiced. Cutting, grinding, polishing, breaking, ruining expensive diamond blades. Learning. Again and again. The first outdoor table looked terrible. Uneven legs. Rough edges. Poor polish. The second looked better. The sixth finally resembled something worth keeping. The 15th surprised even Margaret. It looked elegant, natural, timeless. Exactly the way Samuel's sketches suggested. One summer the county hosted its annual home and garden show. Margaret rented the smallest booth available. 1 granite dining table. 2 stone benches. A simple outdoor countertop display. People stopped constantly. They touched the polished surfaces. Asked where the granite came from. Margaret always answered honestly. The quarry throws it away. Most assumed she was joking. By closing time she had sold nothing. Nathan helped load the trailer. They liked it. Margaret sighed. They didn't buy it. He smiled. They'll remember it. A month later, a landscape architect called. He had photographed Margaret's booth. A client wanted an outdoor entertaining space unlike anything in the city. Could she build it? Margaret hesitated, then answered, yes. The project took 11 weeks. Stone countertops, dining table, fire feature, serving island. Everything handcrafted from discarded quarry granite. When the homeowners hosted their first gathering, one guest happened to own a luxury home design magazine. He spent nearly an hour studying the stonework. Finally he asked, "Who built this?" 3 weeks later a photographer arrived at Margaret's farm. Instead of photographing kitchens, he photographed the granite piles. Truck after truck of rejected stone. Then the finished outdoor spaces. The contrast fascinated him. One image captured a towering mountain of fractured granite in the foreground, while a stunning polished outdoor kitchen gleamed behind it. The magazine loved the story. Orders slowly increased. Then doubled again. One afternoon the quarry superintendent stopped beside Margaret's workshop. Employees carefully polished another massive granite countertop. Delivery trucks waited outside. He looked toward the stone piles. Then back at Margaret. "You know?" She smiled. "What?" "We've been paying to dump your inventory for 16 years. Margaret laughed softly. "It certainly looks that way." A week later, an architect from a nationally recognized luxury home builder arrived unexpectedly. He spent 2 hours studying Margaret's finished outdoor kitchens. Then he looked toward the endless granite blocks stacked behind the pasture. Finally he smiled. "I have a question." Margaret folded her arms. "Go ahead." He rested one hand on a polished granite island. "Have you ever thought about building these for people outside this state?" The architect's question lingered in Margaret's mind for weeks. Have you ever thought about building these for people outside this state? She hadn't. Not seriously. The workshop already kept her busy. Every completed kitchen sold before the next one was finished. Landscape architects referred clients. Home builders recommended her. Word of mouth alone created a waiting list nearly 8 months long. Growing faster seemed risky. Samuel always warned against growing before craftsmanship could keep up. Still, the opportunity refused to leave her thoughts. Nathan noticed first. One evening he walked into the workshop carrying invoices. Margaret sat quietly studying shipping maps. "You're doing it again." She looked up. "What?" "The maps." Silence. "The maps." Nathan smiled. "That means you're planning something." Long pause. "Maybe. The expensive kind." Margaret laughed softly. "Probably." 3 months later, she accepted the architect's invitation. Not to open stores. Not to build factories. Simply to showcase 3 completed outdoor kitchens at a luxury home exhibition in Colorado. The trip required 2 semi-trailers. Each kitchen had been assembled at the farm, carefully numbered, then disassembled for transport. Every granite countertop, every stone cabinet, every fire table, everything came from blocks the quarry once paid to throw away. The exhibition hall looked intimidating. National outdoor brands occupied enormous displays. Imported Italian stone, polished marble, luxury appliances, professional sales teams. Margaret's booth looked almost quiet. Natural granite, solid craftsmanship, warm wood accents. Nothing flashy, everything authentic. Visitors stopped immediately, not because it was the biggest display, because no 2 pieces looked alike. Every slab carried unique mineral patterns. Natural fractures became design features. Crystal veins shimmered beneath soft lighting. One homeowner ran her hand across a granite island. It doesn't look manufactured. Margaret smiled. It isn't. Another visitor asked, where do you source stone like this? Margaret answered honestly. Rejected quarry blocks. The woman blinked. Rejected? Yes. She laughed. I would have guessed imported European granite. Margaret smiled. So would the quarry. By the end of the exhibition, every display had sold. More importantly, architects filled Margaret's notebook with projects. Luxury resorts, mountain lodges, lake homes, outdoor restaurants, private estates. Nathan counted business cards during the drive home. This is different. Margaret nodded. Very. Orders arrived faster than the workshop could handle. Margaret faced her first real decision. Produce more, or protect quality. She chose both. Instead of building a factory, she trained local craftsmen, stone masons, carpenters, metal fabricators. Young people who had planned to leave town for work suddenly found careers close to home. The old hay barn became a fabrication building. The abandoned machine shed became a finishing room. The farm slowly transformed into a thriving artisan campus. Every Friday, quarry trucks continued arriving. Only now they unloaded with smiles. One afternoon, the quarry superintendent climbed out before raising the dump bed. He looked toward the bustling workshop. Forklifts carried polished granite slabs. Employees shaped countertops. Delivery trucks loaded completed kitchens. He laughed. You know? Margaret smiled. What? We've completely changed our accounting department. She raised an eyebrow. How? We used to call this disposal. He pointed toward the granite blocks. Now we call it inventory delivery. Margaret laughed. I like that better. Word spread beyond the state. A luxury mountain resort ordered 12 outdoor kitchens. A vineyard commissioned custom stone dining terraces. Then a national landscape architecture magazine featured Margaret's story across 12 pages. The headline read, From Quarry Waste to Luxury Living. The photographs captivated readers. One image showed towering mountains of fractured granite behind the pasture. The next showed elegant outdoor kitchens overlooking mountain landscapes. The contrast amazed everyone. Soon another opportunity appeared. A buyer from a nationally recognized home furnishings company requested a visit. Unlike previous visitors, she spent little time discussing granite. Instead, she watched Margaret work. She noticed every detail. Edges hand-finished. Joints fitted carefully. No shortcuts. No rushed production. Finally, she asked, How many kitchens can you build every year? Margaret answered honestly, Not enough. The buyer smiled. Good. Margaret looked confused. You'd rather hear that? The woman nodded. Scarcity usually means people still care. Negotiations continued for months. Margaret agreed to one condition. Every kitchen would continue being built on the Hale farm. Every piece of granite would still come from rejected quarry blocks. Nothing outsourced. Nothing mass-produced. The company agreed. The partnership quietly changed everything. Luxury developments across the country began featuring Hale outdoor kitchens. Design magazines regularly highlighted the craftsmanship. Television programs filmed installation projects. Still, back home, Margaret's routine barely changed. Every Friday, she walked toward the newest granite delivery, examined each block, poured a little water across the rough surface. Just as Samuel once had. The hidden crystal patterns always appeared. One autumn afternoon, Dale Harper drove slowly into the workshop. He climbed out, walked silently through rows of finished stone kitchens waiting for shipment. Massive granite islands, fire tables, outdoor pizza ovens, dining tables. Everything gleamed beneath warm afternoon light. Finally, he shook his head. No. Margaret smiled. Morning. Dale folded his arms. I've been saying this wrong for 16 years. She laughed. What? I kept calling those rock piles junk. Yes. They weren't. No. Long pause. They were a factory. Margaret smiled. They were. The following spring, the County Chamber of Commerce recognized the workshop as the region's fastest-growing artisan manufacturer. Local officials toured the facility. Journalists interviewed employees. The greatest surprise wasn't the sales. It was the jobs. Families who once commuted hours for work now stayed in town. Young apprentices learned traditional stone craftsmanship. Small restaurants opened nearby. Trucking companies expanded. The quarry itself benefited. Instead of paying enormous disposal costs, it partnered with Margaret to identify especially beautiful rejected blocks. Waste became an asset. One evening, Nathan stood beside Margaret, overlooking the western pasture. The setting sun cast long shadows across hundreds of granite blocks waiting their turn. Beyond them stood the expanded workshops. Stone dust floated gently through golden light. Employees locked the buildings before heading home. Nathan folded his arms. You know what still bothers me? Margaret smiled. What? They laughed every Friday. Yes. For 16 years. I know. They couldn't see it. Margaret looked toward the newest granite block. Freshly delivered. Still rough. Still dusty. She walked over. Poured a bottle of water across one weathered face. Instantly, silver crystals and dark blue mineral veins burst into view beneath the setting sun. Exactly as Samuel had shown her decades before. Nathan smiled. He was right. Margaret nodded. He usually was. She rested one hand on the granite. You know what Grandpa always said? Nathan looked over. What? Stone tells the truth after you wash away the dust. The breeze drifted quietly across the farm. For 16 years, quarry trucks had backed up to Margaret Hale's fence and dumped what accountants called waste. Neighbors saw broken rocks. Disposal costs. Mountains of useless stone. Margaret saw hidden beauty waiting beneath a rough surface. One block at a time. One kitchen at a time. One family gathering around a handcrafted table at a time. She never became successful because she found rare granite. She became successful because she recognized extraordinary value in what everyone else had already decided wasn't worth keeping. And in the end, the greatest thing the quarry ever delivered wasn't stone. It was the opportunity hidden inside every block that someone else had been willing to throw away.